Hi, Andy here from Andy's Golf Blog. In this video, I am going to tell you how I've been using the data from the ShotScope V3 to help make informed decisions about the equipment that goes into my golf bag. Now, I'm not going to cover all of the equipment. This video is going to focus on the putters, okay? So I have a couple of different putters which I'll tell you more about in just a second. But essentially, the data that ShotScope the V3 has been tracking about my performance over the last couple of years is going to help me make a data-driven decision as to which putter is best for me. If you're not familiar with the ShotScope V3, then you can find a full review on my golf blog at andysgolfblog.co.uk, or head over to my YouTube channel, which is Andy's Golf Blog, and you'll be able to find the ShotScope V3 review on there. I'll also put it in the card above, and I'll include that in the description. Now, after watching this video, if you think the ShotScope is a product that you'd be interested in, then the good news is you can get an extra 10% off of the current best prices that ShotScope offer direct using the code ANDY10. So if you enter ANDY10 at checkout, you'll be able to get money off of a G3, which is a GPS only watch, a V3, which is this one here, which tracks your performance data as well as giving you GPS yardages, and from their Pro L1 laser rangefinder, which I find here. So anyway, let me tell you a bit more about what has brought this video about. This is my Ping Karsten Anser 2 bladed putter. Now, I have had this for a number of years, as hopefully you can tell from the grip there, which is extremely worn. And I bought this from the pro shop at my old course probably about maybe 10-15 years ago, and it's been a trusty companion over that time. I've putted really quite well with this, and it's just a really nice putter. I think it's about 34 inches in length, and it's a slight arc, which means obviously if you balance it here, the toe drops down, so the toe closes as I putt with this one. Over here we have the second putter, which I am going to talk about, which is the TaylorMade Spider Tour. Now, this is the black, and this is basically the same putter that Dustin Johnson used, or maybe perhaps still uses. Now, I bought this one purely because of how it looked. So I loved the idea of the black shaft. I was quite interested in the idea of moving to a mallet, which would perhaps bring a bit more confidence with certainly with shorter putts. And as I said, I basically bought it because I thought it looked absolutely lovely, and I still think that. I still think it's one of the best looking putters ever made. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to use my ShotScope performance data to actually tell me which is the best putter based on how I perform. Now, I've been using ShotScope for about 3 or 4 years, and I've been using the V3 for the last 18 months. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you how I can interrogate the data from the ShotScope device using the online web dashboard to tell me more about my putting with each of these putters, and to tell me which putter should be going into my bag. I have an idea of which one I think is the best putter for me, but rather than just going by what I think, which has got me in this problem because I thought I needed to change putters in the first place, I want to look at the data and use the data to make a data-driven decision. So hopefully you do find this video useful. If you do, then please give it a like, and remember to comment in the comments below. So let me know more about what you thought about the video, or which of these putters you would choose, or indeed if you have any experience with these putters or the ShotScope V3. And remember, if you've not already subscribed to my channel, please do think about subscribing. I've got lots of other product videos on my channel. So anyway, let me tell you more about how I can interrogate the data of my performance based on what I've captured using my ShotScope V3 to help me decide which putter should go into my bag. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at the data we have available to us. I have logged into the ShotScope dashboard, so if you aren't a ShotScope user, essentially what we have here is you can see all of your rounds, and you can filter it by year. and then you can delve in and look at your performance data. So I'm not going to cover this in this video, but I do have other videos explaining how the dashboard works. What I'm interested in though is to go into the performance menu, and within here you'll see that you can break your performance down into kind of 5 main areas. So clubs, tee shots, approaches, short game and putting. For this particular video, I'm not interested in the first 4. I'm going to create other videos explaining about how I've used the data in there to help me practice more efficiently and effectively. But for today, we are going to focus just on putting. So I'm going to open up the putting stats, and here you'll see we have all of the data around my putting. Now, you'll see on the left-hand side, we can use the year selector. So I've been using this since 2019, so I can see my stats from 2019, 2020, and 2021. The round selector in the middle here, this lets you analyse based on X amounts of rounds. So you can do all of your rounds during that period. You can do the last 15, the last 5, or the very last round. Then finally, on the right-hand side here, you have your club selector. Now, obviously I'm talking about putting, and what we have here is we have a black P and a yellow P. The black P is my Ping Anser, okay? So when I click on the black P, it filters the stats to show me them just based on that club. And the yellow P is the TaylorMade Spider. So all of the stats you see on screen there are to do with the Spider. So just to clarify, if I leave it as it is just now, we are looking at 2021. We're looking at all of the rounds that I have used the TaylorMade Spider. Now, what I want to do is I want to have a look and start delving down into all of the stats available. And one of the things that I'm going to use as the kind of benchmark is the data here on this, this Back to Basics golf website. Now, you'll see here we have average putts per round by handicap. And this data is taken from something called the Grint. So this is essentially an app, I think it's more of an American app that tracks performance and tracks golfers' performance data, okay? So kind of like ShotScope, but instead of doing it automatically, the users will input after the round all of their data, okay? But you'll see here we have 31.5 strokes for a scratch golfer is the target per round, so that's strokes as in putts. If you're 1 to 5 handicap, then 32.6, and 6 to 10 is 33.7. I am a 7 handicapper just now, so I fit into kind of this bracket here, so we've got 33.7. Now, interestingly, ShotScope's data suggests that a benchmark for a 10 handicapper should be 31 putts. Okay, so there's actually a couple of putts between the two there. I'm going to kind of work on 32 as being what I would say is what I would be satisfied with. Okay, so about 32 putts per round. Now, of course, we're going to come back to this in a little while when we're starting to look, but I'm going to jump back into the dashboard just now, and let's take a look back at 2019. So if I go into 2019, you'll see that I can't now select my yellow putter, and that's the TaylorMade Spider because I hadn't bought it by this point. So these are the stats with my Ping Anser back in 2019. So you can see here, if I leave it with all of the rounds selected, I averaged 27 1 putts, 64% 2 putts, and 7% 3 or more putts. Now that's, to me, that's quite good. 7% 3 putts or worse, which is fairly low. Down here we can see that I averaged 32.2 putts per round, which is slightly above what I said I am going to use the benchmark of, which is kind of like in between the Grint and ShotScopes for a 10 handicapper. So I was looking at 32, I'm 0.2 above that. You'll see here average holes per 3 putt, so 13.3 holes before I made a 3 putt. And the stats you have here, so average length of putt hold and longest putt hold, I don't tend to worry too much about these because with the ShotScope, you're reliant on the technology being accurate or extremely accurate to know exactly where you are on the green and where the pin is. And whilst you can move it about and it's generally fairly accurate, the GPS technology doesn't yet allow it to be accurate enough, in my opinion. So the technology hopefully will soon allow you to be accurate within, say, 30 centimeters of your actual location. But for now, sometimes it is a little bit off, so I have to move the position of my putts or the pin around. And what that means is if I don't get it absolutely exact, then these numbers here can be a little bit skewed, whereas the number of putts that I make will always be correct because I'm entering how many putts I take. You'll see on the right hand side here, you do have this make percentage based on how far you are from the hole, and they also provide you with things like proximity to hole. So you can go in here and you can see what your average proximity to the hole from a starting distance of 6 to 12 foot is, so mine's 0.7 with that particular putter during 2019. Again, I don't really do too much with this because I find that I'm not convinced that it's extremely accurate or accurate enough based on how I edit my rounds and what data ShotScope is collecting to make this very much worthwhile. But the rest of the stuff here certainly is. And you'll see here I missed 40% of my putts short, which actually is probably the inverse of most, I would say most amateurs, or certainly how I used to putt. I would tend to leave more putts short than long, but in this case, apparently I left more long. Now, if I jump into 2020, you'll see that I have the club selector. I can select all, and I have the Spider, and I've got the Anser available here. So remember, the black is the Ping Anser, the yellow is the TaylorMade Spider. So during this year, I bought the Spider, and I used it more often than the Anser. In fact, I think I only used the Anser for a handful of rounds. So what I've done is I've decided to omit the data from 2020. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to just kind of completely remove this data without deleting rounds. So if I'm just going to basically ignore the data from 2021 for the Ping Anser, and I'm going to focus on 2021 for that data because in 2020 I barely used the Ping Anser. So 2020 we're going to focus primarily on the TaylorMade Spider, and 2021 more so on the Ping Anser. However, there was a slight period in 2021 where I used the Spider as well, so I'm going to show you or work out an average for those. So anyway, if I jump into 2020 with the Spider, you'll see here that I had 64% 2 putts, 25% 1 putts, and 9% 3 putts. So when compared with 2019, you'll see that there was a slight increase when it came to putts or 3 putts using the TaylorMade Spider. Down here, we'll look here, we've got 33 putts per round. So it's 0.8 more putts per round with that. But the average holes per 3 putt you'll see here is 10.3. So obviously what you want here is you want a higher number because it means you're going more putts without 3 putting. In this case, I was actually about 3 holes less before I 3 putted. You'll see here I missed a smaller amount short, but as I said, I was taking more putts during this period. If I jump across to 2021 and select the Spider again, you'll see that the putts per round here is slightly lower, so it's actually under the target of 32. The putts that I made 3 putts on though, or the holes that I made 3 putts on, was less than it was in 2020, which again is a bit of a concern because it means I'm taking even less holes to make 3 putts. And you'll see that my misses short here has increased from what it was in 2020, which was 38%. It jumped up to 50%. Okay, so it's quite a big jump there. You'll also notice that I had 11% 3 putts or worse with that club in 2021 compared to 9% in 2020. So there were obviously quite big differences, and you may have noticed that I made less 1 putts in 2021. So anyway, what I did to help make this a little bit easier is I took the numbers from 2020 and from 2021 for the Spider, and I averaged them out. So what that left me with is 32.35 putts per round with the TaylorMade Spider during the period of 2021. It also meant that I averaged 10 holes per 3 putt, okay, and I left 44% of my putts short. Whereas if I now have a look at the short scope data for 2021, looking at the ping, so I'll move it to 2021 and I'll filter by ping, you will see that first of all, I'm down to 6% 3 putts or worse, which is considerably better than the other stats, which for the Spider were up around about, let's say, 9% there, and with that one 11%, so basically 10%. So I've gone from 10% average down to 6%, so quite a big drop. You'll notice there's a big jump there in terms of my 1 putts as well. So I managed 30% 1 putts with that, whereas looking at the Spider, I was around about 23, 24. So quite a big jump there in 1 putts as well. The thing that interests me here as well is my average putts per round. Again, remember we are focusing here on the ping. Average putts per round, 31. So it's 1.35 strokes per round better than the TaylorMade Spider. Average holes per 3 putt is 16.3. So this season I have averaged 16 holes before I've made a 3 putt, whereas previously with the TaylorMade Spider I was averaging 10 holes. So there's quite a big difference there. In fact, it's close to about 60%. The other thing is my misses short. 45% were left short compared with 44 with the Spider. So slightly worse there in terms of the amount by 1%, but not really anything to worry about. So as you can see from this, there is such a wealth of data, and as I said, I've had to kind of do the averages myself off screen for the Spider because I used it between kind of 2 seasons, or more so than I did with the ping. But as you can see, when we start to really interrogate the data and look into how often we're using the clubs and how often we're making putts, there is a huge difference there. And one of the reasons I bought the TaylorMade Spider was to encourage sort of more 1 putts and be a bit more comfortable from short distances from the hole. Now I certainly found that to be the truth. I noticed that my 1 putt, I was more confident over those little kind of 3, 4, 5 foot putts. But what I noticed with the TaylorMade Spider was when I was lag putting, I felt like I really had to hit it firmly. Now I'm not sure if it's to do with the insert that's in the front of the putter, but what I find is with my ping, it's just a gentle kind of smooth roll, and it feels to me very consistent, whereas with the Spider it felt very inconsistent. It felt like I didn't really have the control, and more often than not I was leaving either the ball quite a bit short or I was rallying it past the hole. There was no in between, and that was one of the big contributing factor to making more 3 or more putts. So as we can see from the data there, to go from 10% 3 putts or worse down to 6% makes a massive difference, and to basically gain 6 holes per round without a 3 putt again also makes a big difference. So there is a lot to do. Obviously I still need to work on my putting, I still want to improve my putting, but I'm now at the stage where I know from looking at this data that the clubs that I've got in the bag, certainly when it comes to the putter, is the right putter for me, certainly at the moment. It may change. It may be if I was to go for a putting lesson, I may actually find that, or a putting fitting, I may actually find that the putter isn't the correct putter for me. But I'm happy with those putting stats. I'm happy to be basically bang on what a 10 handicapper should be according to ShotScope. I'm quite a bit below what the Grint is even for a scratch golfer. So as I said, I work on around about 32, which I think is more realistic. And of course, ShotScope's 31 putts doesn't have a decimal point in place where it normally would. So their average might actually be 31.4. So there you have it. The Ping has it. I guess I've always kind of known, or certainly for the last year, I've known that I have been putting better with this particular putter. But as somebody who often works with data, I wanted to analyse the data. I wanted to make a proper data-driven decision rather than just guessing. So for next season, the answer is going to go into my bag. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, or if you enjoyed it, please do give it a like and comment below. Let me know what putter you're using. Let me know if you've used a V3 before, if you do analyse your own stats, or what you use to track your stats. I love to engage on the channel with other people who are golf enthusiasts, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have about any of the products that I have talked about in this video. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. And remember, if you're interested in buying a ShotScope device, make sure you buy direct from ShotScope using the link in the description and use the promo code ANDY10 to save an extra 10% off of what are already the best prices available online.